always do that. We're now broadcasting. We're live. There we go. Oof. There was almost 100 people pre-registered for this, so God only knows.
Okay.
Oh, look at them streaming. It's actually kind of fun. We've never. This is new software for me, so there's all sorts of. It's very similar to my meeting software, but it's got some different things. It's very interesting to watch the. Like if you've got the participant panel, you can see them like rolling in. This is quite good.
Yeah. View options. Not work. Oh, let's go.
Is anybody attending the other conference directly after this one?
I am going to try to do it. You are as well, aren't you? Yeah?
Yeah, the reminder just came through that it's in another hour.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't register for it, but we'll see how I feel. Sometimes things at the end of this, I might not be in the mood to sit in front of. I've got another one this afternoon as well, so.
And this one, is going to be available on their website. They're going to record it, and you can just go to their website and get it. So
yeah, I'm definitely recording this one too. Hello to the 40 of you that have just sort of logged in. Hopefully you're all getting in all right. Just to let you know, we're going to give people a few more minutes to sort of stream in. There was almost 100 people registered, and we're only about halfway there, so we'll give people several minutes to sort of get in. Just so you are aware, this is if those that have done some of the LARE sessions and whatnot, this session is a little different. This is in webinar software, so you will not be able to speak or be on camera. But while you're waiting for everyone to get in, if you can locate the Q&A section, that'll allow you to post questions and the chat, which Dave, of course, has found. And you can also chat as we go. There's going to be lots of opportunity for commenting and interactivity, so please make sure you find those features. If you have just dialed in on the phone and are not using the full software, that's a bad plan because there's heaps of video and whatnot in this session. So, and this is our first time using this software, so you're going to have to bear with me from time to time as things go glitchy, because they will, because it's new. This session is being recorded, just as a reminder. I'll remind everybody again, but keep in mind, most of what is recorded is me, so it's probably safe for the most part, although the chats are recorded as well. Now it feels weird and silent.
Todd, are you going to post the AALA digital seal policy?
It's posted in the back end. It is posted.
Okay.
I can bring it up though, if we need to talk about it. If it comes up and I need to pull it up, I can pull it up, and I can, if anyone, I mean, I can always bring it to the forefront too, but anyone who needs it can certainly have it. It's not secret. I just don't leave it out in the front end at the moment. Although with our new Fair Registration Practices Act here, a lot of the stuff that is policy back-end stuff is going to move to the front side of the site because it's part of the requirements of transparency.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
All right, folks, we'll give another 2 minutes and then we'll get rolling. I don't imagine we're going to need the full hour anyway, but. All right, it's basically 5 past, so let's get going. For those of you that are already in the room, we're up at about almost 70 people, which is pretty amazing for a first effort on this, and it probably delineates a really high degree of interest in this sort of new technology that we're sort of rolling in. There's lots and lots of people from across the country, so I just want to remind everyone this is being recorded. That includes the chat window, so that's also recorded as part of that. Just keep that in mind. I've got both Ingrid and Tara on the call as well, and so if you pop questions into the question box that are very specific to BC or Ontario, I'm going to kind of have them sort of maybe address those questions, and I'll deal with the Alberta content as it comes through. We all use the same platform, so a lot of the tech and basics of this are going to be are going to be identical, but also you're going to find that some of the policy might be a little bit different, and our implementation timelines are definitely different. But we're about 1.5 years now into this technology, and I wanted to make sure that we actually took some time as we start to ramp up our expectations of use. Although you can't ask a question verbally, please do punch questions through, or if I'm talking about something and you want to get me to explain further, please use both the chat and the Q&A. I am watching those as they come through, and I will attempt to address those questions as they come up as we hit different sections. If you want more, you're confused about something, please make sure you're asking those questions. The intent here is to really address your needs. I've only got about 9 slides, and I'm going to show a little bit of tech, but the goal here is that you really ask those questions and start to really get your head around this new way of doing business. So again, I'm going to address sort of why we want digital seals, when in Alberta you must use each of the types of seals, and for the convenience today, seal and stamp, I'm using those terms interchangeably. They mean this, for the purposes of today, they mean basically the same thing. I'm going to show you basically how the software works at a very high level, and I'm going to be really clear. Notarius got lots of amazing training videos and webinars that they do. My intent is not to replace your engagement with the actual tech provider and their ability to give you really detailed answers on technical use of this product. I'm going to kind of give you the highlights for those of you that maybe haven't used it yet or that are curious about it but haven't had a chance to jump on a webinar. So in Alberta, our implementation timeline kind of was pretty straightforward. BC took the lead on starting this process sort of in 2018, and we reviewed a lot of their work and adopted. There was an opportunity for us to all adopt simultaneously and get a more preferential rate in the product. And so that was done. We did that. We did initial policy work, and we launched the product in October of 2018. And uptake was pretty good in Alberta. I think we're probably about double the other provinces right now in terms of initial use. And then once we adopted, we always knew that it was going to take some education. So we planned to spend sort of October 2018 through the end of this year educating, helping people learn how to use it, get people comfortable, talking with first our members, and then talking about your clients. Primarily municipalities is where we're going to focus our energy in Alberta, making sure they understand how this product works, what they should be looking for, how it makes their life better, and our expectations in terms of requirement. Starting in 2021, we will start to hold more people accountable when they're using or not using these seals when they should be used. Now, again, like all of us, this is a corrective enforcement policy. It's intended to make sure that you understand when you're supposed to use it and that you are using it in that way. If you get on track, we're hoping not to have any real discipline involved in this. It's mostly going to be just educational and reminders of expectations. So why did we go to a digital seal? One of the things I figured out very quickly in Alberta, and I'm sure it's a similar story in the other provinces, is there's been a lot of haphazard to the digital side of what we do. In Alberta, firms were making their own seals. I've had stories in firms of junior staff making seals for senior practitioners and then putting it on stuff without their knowledge or consent. And a lot of that is a reflection of our more digital business. And that's a bit of a problem. It was a member of the board that sort of said, well, someone in her office made a seal and put it on a document, and she didn't know it even was there until she saw the final version. And she's like, that means I put my seal on something without my knowledge or consent. And she's like, can I be disciplined for that? And the answer is yes. In theory, you could be disciplined for that because it's your seal. The association owns the seal, and we've given it to you to use, but you're accountable for it. In Alberta, that's why seals and certificates have to be transferred using a signature. So they're either hand-delivered by me or I send them signature required. So I have a chain of custody on that seal because you're ultimately legally accountable for any instance of its use. Again, we know that landscape architects are using more and more technology. We know that most documents are now traveling electronically. There is a requirement that these documents have a high standard of reliability. And part of what the digital seal does is allows us to know that no one's tampered with that seal or used it inappropriately. Ian's asking a question about how is that my seal? It's a forgery. Well, it is a forgery, but it's your firm as well. So part of that is about disciplining your staff, and it's about that culture in your organization where digital seals it's okay to create them. It's okay. You're right, it is a forgery, but it's still ultimately, if it were a digital impression of your stamp, we would say, well, how did that person get a hold of your stamp? Why is your stamp not in a secure location? It's that same mindset, and that's a tough thing around digital world, is understanding that as we go increasingly digital, the line between forgery and control and education starts to get really blurry. And again, in most cases, like in this case, it was just an internal education piece. It was sorted out. It would never get to a disciplinary stage unless perhaps that seal went out in a document that it shouldn't have, and then someone built something from it, and there was a resulting lawsuit, at which point it becomes a real issue, especially within a firm. But it's a tough thing, and it's going to create a lot of these odd questions. Great question. Thanks, Ian. Again, digital seals ensure that only you can use a digital impression, and that's part of this whole process. As we implement this and it becomes rigorously enforced, if an impression of your seal exists on a document, but it's not properly sealed, then we get to say that, well, this is not actually it's not a valid use of that seal, that it's a forgery or it's inappropriate or what have you. If it's not digitally sealed, it's not a real seal. And that's that exact conversation. It returns control to you that it is an impression that you have authorized, because only you can use your password, and it allows us to still own that digital impression as well. We have the ability on our side, if you strike or go inactive in Alberta, and I would require you to surrender your seal and certificate, I can also go into the software and disable your seal. So you can no longer use that. And that, again, creating that chain of custody around an electronic seal as opposed to your physical seal, to create that same consistency of expectation across the board. And again, it gives your end clients an understanding that that document is as you intended it and has not been changed after you sealed it. And you'll sort of start to get an understanding of how that works as we get into the technical. So why did we choose this software? BCSLA did a huge amount of market research because they were the leaders on this project, and selected the Notarius seal and recommended it to us, and we reviewed their work and agreed because it is the best product for this type of work. And largely for me, because I just did an environmental scan on other products, to me the piece of this seal that I think is the most critical in defensibility of the profession is you have to provide identity verification to get it. So we know 100% that the person who was issued that seal was in fact you. You actually have to get on camera, you have to show 2 pieces of government issued ID in real time with a real person verifying. Those conversations are recorded so that if there's ever a question that it was actually you who actually had access to that seal, we have complete validity that we know that it was issued to the right person. Frankly, it's a higher degree of validity than we have on physical seals. Another reason we selected it in Alberta was just for consistency. BCSLA is using it, OALA is using it, MALA uses it, which is the bulk of the profession in Canada. APEGA and the Alberta Association of Architects are also moving to adopt this. So we're seeing a really high degree of adoption within the Alberta industry. And that means we're moving this towards a national standard. As each of us are, I know it's being used in BC and I believe in Ontario as well by the other professions. So the nice thing about that is it creates a consistent standard that our clients will begin to understand. It also means that your firm IT department is going to start to get used to having the software in place and understand how to install it and make sure it all works. The other thing that a single product gave to us is we know that most of our LAs, especially our senior LAs in Alberta, are practicing in BC, they're practicing in Ontario, and so it's a single software solution that allows them to have their electronic seal in each jurisdiction and have that similar product experience regardless of where they're working. So again, it's important, that to us was a big part of it. Again, I've already talked about the importance of identity verification and the fact that we still, as required under our bylaws, we have control. It's still ultimately, we have the ability to issue and revoke the use of an electronic seal the same way we have the right to recall your physical seal. And just as a side note, Notarius, knowing that a lot of you have shifted to home-based work and may not even have access to your physical seals for any number of reasons, they put the seal program back on sale. So if you are thinking about getting one and you're interested in jumping into this area of practice, you can get that at a pretty significantly reduced rate through the end of June. So when do I use what? And this is right now is where the education piece is at, and it's really simple. If you're issuing a physical hard copy, you stamp it with your physical seal, just as you've always done. You print it out, you seal it, you sign it, you date it, good to go. Mail it off. If you're sending something electronically, you will use your digital seal. So you're emailing it, you're uploading it, you're transmitting it. The only area that's going to become a little bit futzy in this section is if you are transmitting electronic drawings not in PDF. So for example, you're sending a CAD file to somebody, or in those cases, this software doesn't seal those. This is intended for PDF and certain types of documents. So there may be instances where you're going to electronically transfer a document that would normally be sealed. It's going to have a seal impression. However, it's not sealed because it's not through this software. So I haven't had anyone tell me that that's been an issue for them, but it is something that we understand that this software only works with certain types of documents. But yeah, in Alberta, where we catch this the most right now, I can tell you, is all of our supervisors and advisors for interns are required to seal a document that they understand the obligation that they're taking on. And I get a lot of them emailed without the notarious seal, and I have to go back in each case and remind that member that they've just transmitted their seal electronically to me, which means it has to be digitally sealed. Otherwise, technically, they're violating the digital seal rules. Or digital transmission rules. And so we're catching a lot of education in that forum to help people understand. And the funny part of it is people sort of said, isn't this overkill? I'm getting a lot of isn't this overkill? And for a while there, I was actually tempted to start going into these PDFs that people were sending me and lifting the seal out of it and putting it on other documents and sending it back. Because it's easy enough to do. I mean, most of you are working with these type of software every day. You all have that capability to lift a seal off something and put it on something else. And so again, that creates that environment where fraud's a possibility, and it exposes individuals to liability, exposes the organization to liability, and we're trying to reduce that. And so again, same rules. I just remind them, it's educational, then they know for future, and they can decide how do they want to proceed. So quite a few of my members that are working with a lot of the interns are now either, perhaps they're in a practice where they're not doing a lot of drawings, the cost doesn't make sense. One of the practitioners in Edmonton works at NATE, and it doesn't make sense for her to have an electronic seal because, frankly, all she ever uses her seal for is internship work. So she just mails me stuff. She no longer sends them electronically. And we spend a lot of time actually with the interns, because oftentimes what happens is they'll take the form to their advisor. The advisor will seal and sign it. They'll take it back to their office and scan me a copy. And so, again, back to Ian's earlier point, now someone else has violated the process. And so, again, it's about education. And I'll ask them, did they give this to you to mail, or did they tell you to email it to me? So I know if I'm educating the intern or am I educating their advisor supervisor. It's about learning. It's all about learning and getting it right. There were some challenges here in Alberta with some of the initial implementation. A lot of it's gotten a lot better. There were some question of costs, and frankly, there is more cost to this. However, Notarius has some cool data around if you stop printing, so you can stamp and then rescan. If you factor in staff time and you factor in printing costs, especially plotting, which is certainly more expensive than standard printing, the annual cost of this actually is not that high once you look at the factors of time involved in being able to stay in a completely digital environment end to end. Of course, that presumes on the front end that you are actually adhering to the correct procedure and haven't created your own little digital seal that you're putting on things illicitly. There were some early IT problems as IT departments figured out how to utilize the software and get it installed. And again, that's going to be the same with any technology platform. That's not critical of Notarius. That's just how IT departments work. I'm sure half of you, to get on a webinar today, had to go talk to IT and make sure the software platform would load. That's just the reality of, especially in the larger firms where IT's got a high degree of control over the IT environment. There's been definitely some confusion over when do I use this? When do I have to use it? How do I use it? And so again, this webinar is one in a series of things we're doing to help educate the members on how to use their seals. And the other thing is some confusion about multiple documents, especially in multidisciplinary firms or multidisciplinary projects, where you may have part of your package needing to be sealed by an LA and part of it's being sealed by perhaps an engineer and part of it's being sealed by an architect. Understanding how to build packages and put documents together in a way that preserves the seals so that they look true and valid without, I mean, again, it's just some education. And Notarius has some amazing resources to support you in terms of to do this effectively. I'm going to sort of, I'm not really going to touch on that today, but they are the gurus for that. They definitely can support members that are having problems in those areas. And so I'm going to sort of do a little product demo here. And again, super high level. The intention here is not to replicate existing training, but to sort of give you a sense of how this all works. And hopefully this is going to go smoothly. So basically, this is the software platform you should all be seeing now. It's the Consigno desktop software. Once you've gone through the process of being issued your seal, you'll have access to the software. It's complimentary, it updates. It's actually quite easy to use once you get used to it. And so I'm going to give you kind of 4 common examples, one which I use all the time. The rest of them, because I'm the ADA and I'm not an actual landscape architect, I'm going to give you some conceptual thoughts of how I envision you using it. Please accept the fact that I'm not an LA, I don't do drawings, I don't stamp things on my day-to-day, I don't use a seal. So if it's a little bit askew with the real world, just accept the fact that that's a reflection of my role in practice as opposed to your actual practice. But some real common uses. So for example, in this case, as the ADA, I'm signing off a letter. And I do these all the time. This is a good standing letter. This would go off to anywhere. So literally, I drag and drop the file, the PDF, into the software. In this case, I'm doing a letter of good standing for LA Not Really, who holds certificate number 999 and just got it, 2020. So they're in good standing. So I'm going to go ahead. So first of all, in the software, it strongly encourages users to use PDF-A format. If you're not familiar with PDF-A, that's a locked format that resists editing. It's great software. I've got it open in more than one place, so of course that didn't work. Try that again. So it'll do this directly in the software and make it a less editable format. So if you're not familiar with this, if you open a PDF-A document, it's got the blue bar across the top. Actually, I'll just quickly show you now. So in this case, I've converted this to PDF-A, so you'll now see this blue bar across the top that tells you that you can't edit this document without deliberately choosing to alter its format. So you can click Enable Editing and it'll allow you to edit again. But it's letting you know that this is not intended to be an editable document. So again, in terms of our reliability, it's reminding people that they shouldn't be fiddling with your drawings. And then, of course, you can verify that, but it's always right. And then once, in this case, I've already dropped an impression of my signature into this letter. I don't need to have another impression dropped into it. So I can just sign this letter off. I hit sign. It pops open the window. It asks me a few questions. It's my seal certificate. I'm signing this because I have verified. So it gives me a bunch of options. I verified, I agree, I'm the author. Or you can type in something else you want. I validate a lot of transcripts this way when I scan them into our archives. So because we're paperless here. So if I get a transcript, we scan it. And the reason I use is I scanned this from the original. So if I have to send it to Tara in BC or Ingrid in Ontario, it's an electronic document, but it's sealed by me. So it legally tells them that I have taken ownership and I have reviewed an original file and the date and time I did that. Which, if you're used to certification scanning, date and time of the person who did the work is a critical element in a legal case. For those that don't know, I used to run World Water Park here in Edmonton, and so I've been involved in a lot of lawsuits in the 2 years I worked there because lots of people like to sue big, rich companies, especially some of our American friends. So in this case, I can choose to overwrite this file, which is what I generally do. I don't want multiple copies, but I can also rename or select a different location. So if you need to have versioning in place, you can always choose, but I generally just overwrite things. I'm going to certify this document, and I can do that two ways. Say, for example, this is a joint letter between me and Tara. I can add multiple signing zones, and then I can send her a copy so she can sign her section. In this case, I'm the only signer, so I'm going to allow no further modifications, and I'm going to go ahead and sign this. And it's going to ask me my password the first time. Now, I'm going to do multiple documents. Oh, and of course, in this case, I didn't type my password incorrectly. There we go. So it's now done that. This document is sealed. It's going to tell me that it's going to seal. It's going to ask me to re-verify I'm still PDF-A compliant. This is now a sealed document. So if we open this document up back in a PDF reader, you're now going to see the certification panel at the top. And that's going to tell any user of this file that I have certified this document on this date, that the notarius is the certificate authority, that it's a valid certificate. We can go in and get a lot more detail about when and where and why I signed this document, what time and place that occurred. Now, if for some reason I was to go in and make an edit to this document, it would break the seal, and the seal would then warn people that there have been changes made after the fact. Now, doing that on a certified document is really actually quite difficult. I'm trying to find out if I can, let's see if I can comment. I've never actually tried to break my seal before. Oh, here, let's try that. Yeah, see, I'd have to break this from being a PDF-A. So it's not going to allow me to do that without a fair bit of fiddling about, so I'm not going to try. But in the event that there was an alteration to this document, it would actually change the seal at the top to warn people, and it actually, although it will allow you to make those edits, it will basically what it'll do is it'll show any edits made after the seal point, so you can identify what's been altered. So just to give you a slightly different version, I keep opening these the wrong way. This is a case where, say perhaps I've decided that I don't already have a signature in this document. So I'm going to create a signature zone where I want it, which is kind of there. Doesn't matter what I call it, single page document. So now I could do this. Now maybe perhaps, let's say for example, this was also going to get signed by my president. I could put a second box in. I'll call this the president. And so what I could do at this point is sign my name and then the president, email this to my president who does in fact have a digital seal. Of course, I've just lost all my seal zones when I PDFA'd that, so we'll put them back in. Create other zones. This is Matt. All right, so in this case, I'm going to sign it again, just like I did before. The reason is going to be that I'm the author. I'm going to overwrite this. I'm going to certify, but this time I'm going to allow signing in existing zones. So I'm going to sign this off. And then I'm going to email this document to Matt, and Matt will go through the same process. He will sign his section, and then the seal will show that we have both signed it, and both of our seals will be present. So more of a drawing perspective, and again, take this with a grain of salt. So this is the ballroom layout, funny enough, that for the trade show, one of the ballroom layouts. I just grabbed one at random, but it's a drawing. It's in a PDF. It's similar to what I'm sure some of you would work with. Obviously, some of the stat at the bottom would have a box for your seal. I'm not going to overwrite things. So in this case, I've decided to, I'm going to stamp this drawing. So I make a box wherever I want it. This is, call it seal, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to do, in this case, I'm going to use a big seal zone. I put it in the right change spot, so I'm going to move it. Maybe I don't want it that big. Make some adjustments. Put it wherever I want it. So I can drop it up here. We'll move it up there. So in this case, I've created a seal zone. I can't get the corner. Anyway, and this time I'm going to choose to stamp it. So I'm going to select the stamp option. Slightly different zone process because it knows that there's probably, in this case, there's one box. There may be multiple boxes in a bigger document that you're going to see. Perhaps you're going to seal parts of it. Someone else is going to seal other parts. You select the ones you want to do. And again, I need to make sure, I have two setups here. One is my signature only, and one is my seal. Now in this case, I'm using LA Not Really seal, and I built this a few minutes ago. It took me 5 minutes, end to end 5 minutes. Now I'm sealing this because I'm the author today. Maybe I'll say I've reviewed this drawing, whatever the language is, and you're going to see that in the seal, it's going to say when I did it and why I did it. So in this case, I'm going to overwrite, and I've now sealed this document. In the corner, you can see the seal is there. And then if we look at this document in a PDF reader, again, it's going to show its compliance. It's going to have the seal physically included in it, and it does also have the seal information. But in the corner, you'll be able to see here that it's got an electronically protected seal, and it shows that I signed it on today's date, and that I used the reason that I've signed it as I am the author, and it's got my signature built into it. In Alberta, if you want the seal part of your seal done electronically, I already have it electronically. I can send you a drawing file, I can send you a PDF, I can send you a graphic. And then you just need to add your signature to it, and then you can go ahead and use it. So if you don't need to recreate this yourself, we have this done for you. I can produce them in literally a few minutes. I just have to double, triple check that I get your name as you preferred on your seal. You can also, many of our members have chosen just to take their existing physical seal, do a good clear seal on a page, and do a high-res scan of it and work that way with it. That's also fine. How you create your digital impression is very flexible as long as it's a true and faithful impression of the version of the impression, and it's controlled by your digital seal. Shalini is asking, does Ontario have this too? They do have the software. and notarious. Whether Ontario can give you an impression, I'm not sure. I'm going to let, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, Shalini, it's Ingrid, and right now we are working to update our policy. We're a little bit further behind for a few reasons. One of them is that there was an existing policy from 1992 that allowed people to use anything they wanted, and so we're working as to how to update that. I expect that we'll have that ready in May or June of this year. At this point in time, we do allow people to choose how they show their digital seal. What we're putting into our the policy that will come out is that we recommend the font and the sizing, which basically matches what the seal looks like now. So we don't offer at this point in time, and we can certainly look into it, the nice pre-done one that they have in Alberta, but rather have suggested what it should look like, and really similar to what Todd is saying, it should look like your current seal.
Thanks, Ingrid. So Taylor just asked, and I've cleared the question already, how does this work on a document with multiple pages? And that's actually my next example. So basically what I've got here is the layouts for multiple boardrooms. This is, again, I just happen to have this drawing on file, so I'm using it. And so in this case, this is a 9-page document. For me, quite often, my equivalent to this with my day-to-day life is I quite often will sign a contract, and I'll drop my initials onto all the other pages. So I got burnt once with someone altering a contract that I had signed by swapping out a page. So I'm now rigorous about initialing every page of a contract to ensure that I've reviewed it and so that it can't be altered as easily. So in this case, this is a multi-page drawing. And so what we're going to do again is I'm going to create a zone. I'm notorious for forgetting to be on the first page when I do this, but it doesn't. You can do it from anywhere in the document. So I'm going to create a zone. Come on, darling. Okay, so in this case, because it's got pages in multiple directions, there's a potential here that we're going to have a bit of a debacle. So I'm just going to pick a spot. So I've created my zone. This is seal. I don't need multiple. I'm going to put it on all pages. Now I could choose a custom selection, maybe 1, 3, 5, 7. Or for the first page and the last page, whatever's appropriate. But in this case, just for ease, I'm going to put all pages. So now on every page of this document, there is a seal in the same spot. Obviously, in drawings that are all the same orientation, you could literally you'd put that maybe over the GES logo in this document or the Hyatt, and you'd want it in the same place. In this case, because I started on page 1, maybe on this page I want the seal up here, and then I might go to page 2 and move it, down here, and then on page 3 maybe I want it, I don't know, over here. You can move it around page to page to page. And then in the same vein, when I go to sign this off, I'm going to choose to stamp it because it's a stamp box. Now I can select the zone. So again, going back, perhaps it's a multidisciplinary team, or you've got multiple LAs working on different sections of this project. You can choose the sections you want to seal. And then you can refer this document on to the next person so that they can seal it. So in this case, I'm just going to seal all the pages at once. And again, in this case, I've verified. And then it's the same certificate. But what I do need to do is pick, so TR main is my actual signature. I want to go to, I'm LA not really again, and I'm going to do that. And again, I'm going to overwrite this file so that it's a complete product. It's gone through. It's now got my stamp on every page. And in this case, I'm also going to sign this document just to certify that there's no further changes made. So I'm going to allow no further edits. This is what's called an invisible signature. So once I've adhered my seal to multiple sections, I am now also going to sign this document, which closes it off. So now I'm going to agree to this. I'm overwriting. I'm allowing no further modifications. So this is now sealed and signed and certified. And so if we open this one up, now you're going to see that it's got its compliance, except for I opened the wrong one. It will help if I open the right one. So this is the full document I just did. You're going to see that my seal is on every page, wherever I dropped it. if I forget, if you forget and screw it up, you have to start over and redo it, which is why I would recommend probably you're going to want to like make a new copy, just in case you need to go back and fix it, especially at the beginning when you're getting used to it. And you'll see on this one, unlike the last one, so in this one I sealed it, but I didn't sign it. This would be a finished drawing. So I have now sealed this document and I have certified it. It is closed. Any further edits will damage the seal. So again, the technical piece of this is just for concept. When you get your seal, you're going to go through you're going to learn to use it with Notarius. They're going to support you with all the really technical questions, but this is an example of an end drawing that's fully sealed and certified and protected. So it gives you a sense. But as you see, like I say, that certifying this 9-page document took me 60 seconds. Rich is asking if you can set a standard size for the seal, or is it determined by the window? It comes with two sort of defaults, which is small and big as a box size. And those are kind of the only defaults it creates. The seal itself doesn't really matter. Like when I imported my seal into the software, it's massive. It's probably, on paper, it would be this big naturally, just because I like to have that scalability in case I had to do something huge. Every once in a while, someone asks me to sign like a gift check. So I'm producing a check that's 3 feet by 2 feet. So my digital signature is huge to ensure that when it happens, it looks really crisp. But you can upload any set of document you want. The bigger it is, the clearer it'll be if you zoom in really, really deep. And the box size you can control, but like I say, like in this one, sorry, because it's quite a good, like I've zoomed way in here and it's still crisp and clear and you can read it. And so that's an important part. Okay, any other sort of general questions about how the software works? While I'm in the software. All right, I'm going to not close. I'm just going to hide this in case we have to come back to it. Going back into the PowerPoint, at this point, really what I want you to think, at this point, I really just want to open it up to questions. Like I say, this is a new product. There's been lots of questions and answers. I don't know about Tara and Ingrid, but I spend a lot of time with new members addressing concerns. But ultimately, at this point, I want to give everyone the opportunity to ask anything that's popping into your head about these. It's a really great product. Once you get in the swing of using it, I think you're going to find you will find it really simple and easy to do. But I'm going to open it up to questions. There's 70 odd of you in here. Oh, someone put their hand up. I don't even know how to. Donna had a question. Donna, you had a question, your hand's up. I'm going to allow you to talk. So I'm going to press this button. You should now be able to talk. Except for oh, there you go.
Okay, hi. Just thank you so much, all of you, for putting this forward. So I am on Notarius. It is a wonderful program, especially when you are self-employed and working from a home office. The question I have is this date on the bottom of your seal. So we have a red seal. I've actually signed right across the seal. So my signature is signed on the seal. I PDF everything, the whole 9 yards. The thing I'm not doing is putting that date underneath my name, because I assume that once we've signed and sealed our drawings electronically, the date is verified through the certificate when the receiver at the other end, whether he's an architect or an engineer, opens up the drawing. Is that correct?
Correct. The date and time is hard-coded into the document. Great question, by the way. So the date and time is hard-coded into the seal itself. So I'm going to go back to the letter I sealed here. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So this is the letter I sealed earlier. This is seal and signature functionally in terms of the certificate are the same. It doesn't do something different with those two processes. So in this case, I signed this, I pre-impressioned this, it was already coded in, I just sealed it so that people know it's me. If we go to look at this signature panel, you'll see in the signature details that it was last checked on this date. It does have that date coded into it. in the left-hand side here, I believe. Last checked. No, that's when we opened it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just looking here. Let's see what else we can click into. Valid from valid to. So I'm just having a look through the. It is coded in here. I just can't remember where it is. So it is intrinsic to the seal. The date that you actually sealed it will be in here somewhere. I just can't remember. It is hard coded. Just because it's the last alteration to the document. However, most of our members here in Alberta typically want to have that date on the seal itself, and that's a choice I made when I set my seal up. So in the Convivo software, if you add a new seal, which I did right there, I think. So when I set my seal up originally, I elected to have it, I got to control, so this is the basic seal that I have. Now, I like you, I dropped my signature in. I could have put that over top of the art. I could have put it over top of my name. I selected to have it below, but as long as it's there, we don't care where it is. As long as it's in the frame, you can put it wherever makes you comfortable based on your custom and practice and your liability and your lawyer's recommendations. So when I did that, the next step of it is you deal with transparency, which you may or may not want. Now, in this case, I made the choice. I generally want the reason I've signed things on documents I do because I do so many documents where, for me, I use the signature function all the time, and the reason I've signed things is intrinsic to my signature on that document because other than in letters of good standing, I very rarely am the author. I'm usually validating or I've done a scan. So I use that a lot. LAs may not, unless, for example, if you're in a larger firm and maybe you're not the author of the document, but you're reviewing things, you may want a different language there. And I prefer to have the date on the seal. We actually require the dates on things in Alberta, so we prefer that be on there. And I could put it anywhere I want. Like I fiddled with it a bit to get it exactly in the part of the frame I wanted it in. So in Alberta, we would expect the date to be on that seal so that primarily in our case, it's for somebody who's going to print that off. If I send drawings off to a contractor who's then going to print them off and use them on site in hard copy, having the date on is technically part of the seal here in Alberta, so we expect that to sort of be present. But again, it is ultimately, from a discipline perspective, it is hard-coded into the document. So it is there. We just prefer to have it visually present. It's a bit of a policy preference thing. Anything? Did that answer your question, Donna?
Yes. Yes.
Kind of a yes and no, I think. I will, if I can remember where the date is, I'll locate it for you. Which province are you located in?
I am in BC.
Yeah. So I'll get Tara to maybe loop back with you and just kind of confirm what the expectations are for BC specifically, just to make sure that we get you the right answer. And I will follow up with where exactly the data is captured in the system. Okay, so now I'm going to go mute. Okay, so Razul asked, not quite relevant, but if we stamp DWGs and scan and distribute, is it an acceptable practice? Razul, it's only an acceptable practice if you are sealing those documents. Because anything that you scan and distribute it technically should be sealed by a notarius. So basically, if you're sending a DWG file, perhaps directly to someone that they're then going to open it up in CAD and work with it, then that's probably the best we can do. If you're doing a drawing and you put a DWG, like I actually give you, if I do a notarius seal impression for you, I give you a JPEG, a GIF, and a DWG file, so that if you're working in drawings, you can drop your seal in. Then once you actually print that and scan it or print it to PDF, you can then sign the final copy. Again, that would be the same as me with my signature impression already in a letter, and then I open the PDF up and I close it with that certificate. Nancy is asking, idea of software costs. Yeah, so basically the initial, right now, the initial cost for the software is a one-time setup fee, which is $40. And then the annual fee for your primary seal so again, primary meaning your home province or first seal, I believe is roughly $185 a year. And then additional seals are approximately $75. I'm just pulling up right now the pricing guidelines directly from Notarius. Yeah, so basically the setup right now, which is normally about $140, is on reduced, and then your yearly subscription is $185. So again, it really is going to come down for a small practice as to whether or not you're having to transmit your seal electronically, and whether or not you're having to then print and then rescan in. So in Alberta, if you're working with most of our major municipalities, you're required to submit electronic documents. If it's an electronic document, it must be signed with your electronic seal. And so that's the rough costing. But again, and if you're sending something that doesn't require a stamp, then you're obviously it's not a relevant factor. If you're, it's really about the frequency. So it may be that you determine, and again, it depends on your jurisdiction, what their requirements are going to be. But in Alberta, if you're transmitting it electronically with your seal, it does have to be signed with Notarius. I'm just sort of having a look here. Sorry, Razul, if you print a drawing, seal it with your physical seal, and then scan it in, what are you doing with the end? Sorry, I'm going to, let me see if I can find you here, Razul, so you can talk. So, I can't find you. So basically the answer, Razul, is if you create a drawing, you print the drawing on, you physically stamp it, and then scan it back in for transmission, you would need to sign that digital copy with your Notarius seal. If you are, so same as with the letter that already has the impression on it. If you're sending out your drawings, sorry, I'm just looking. Sorry. So Ian, this is the same question. So basically, if you're going to choose for whatever reason to print that document off, use your impression, your physical stamp on it. That impression got there through your physical stamp versus the digital. So when you then scan that back in to transmit it, that's when you would seal it. So think of it this way. Sorry. I've got the printer right behind me here. I'm going to try something different. All right, so I've got my letter here. I'm going to sign it. Pop it in the scanner. I'm going to then scan that in because I'm going to transmit this to someone who needs to see it. So I'm going to file. I'm going to create a PDF from the scanner. I'm going to scan that. Take a second to come across. So now I have my scanned copy of whatever this is. I'm going to save this real quick, save as. So I'm going to take my printed copy of this that I have scanned in so that the gremlins haven't in any way altered any of my work. And then I'm going to go back into the Notarius software. I'm going to pop it open, convert it to PDFA so it's harder to edit. And then because it's already got my signature on it, I'm just going to go ahead and sign it. And in this case, I scanned this. The term I use for these is I scanned from the original. I use that all the time. I'm going to allow no further modifications and overwrite. So I've now sealed this. Hopefully I typed my password correctly that time. I did not. And it's good to go. So in this case, physical document, it's been stamped. chosen to scan it back in, and now I can transmit this with my certified that I've verified that what they're getting is still the original true intent and copy. So that's how that would work, which hopefully I think addresses Razul and Ian's question. It really, both are fine. This is when we talk about the impression versus the seal or stamp. The impression is that visual image of your stamp, whether you've got an electronic DWG file, whether you've got a CAD file, whether you've got a JPEG, whether you've got GIF, how that visual impression of your seal gets on the document is not as important as the final certificate that says you've reviewed it, it's yours, and locked it out so that any changes to that document are protected and easy to identify. Robert Boltman's asking, how do the authenticities verify? So every time you open a sealed document, it goes back to Notarius and validates that your seal is in fact current and live, or that it was current and live on the date of the document was created. And so basically, if you open if I were to email everyone the letters I've worked on today, your computer would reach out to Notarius through the web and validate my signature, and you would get a note about that. And the first time you do a new signature, it's going to say, do you trust this? And you're going to say, well, I got it from Todd. I know it's Todd. Yeah, I trust it. And it'll look nice and pretty like this. The first time it sort of looks a little glitchy, but it still says, this is true and certified from Notarius. And that's why when you look at the signature panel, you'll see the last check just changed. Last time I opened this was 30 minutes ago. It would have been 10/12/12. Now it says 10/42/12. That's the last time this went out to the web and validated that it's still correct. So every time the municipality opens this document, they can, and if they want, they can do a refresh on the check to ensure it's still valid. It will also allow, for example, say you stop practicing. You're a senior practitioner, you're nearing retirement. Drawings that were valid today your seal may no longer be valid, say in 6 months because you've retired, but it would allow you to see that at the date you signed it, it was a valid seal. So it does directly talk to a database controlled through Notarius that will ensure that in fact it was a valid thing done on that day. And we will, Robert, be going out to the municipalities. I know for a fact City of Edmonton's got some staff on today because they were curious to learn this information. We will be providing some training directly to clients that need this support. City of Calgary, City of Edmonton are probably going to be big ones. We'll start to roll out educational materials and sessions for any other municipalities. And I've recorded this session today, so if they want to watch this and get a sense of how this all works, they can do that as well. And Razul's asked again, do you need to pay for one in each province? It depends on the stamping requirements for the province you're in. So if you're doing work in BC and you need to use your BC stamp, you will need a Notarius seal for BC as well as your Notarius seal for Alberta. Your second and subsequent seals are quite a bit cheaper. I think they were about $75. But you do, depending on the jurisdiction you're in and whether they'll accept an out-of-province seal, you may or may not have to have one for each province you're working in. Keeping in mind that this product is only available in, and Tara, Ingrid, correct me if I'm wrong, BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Manitoba have all adopted currently. The others have not formally adopted. So again, it's really about the source seal. So if you're using your Alberta stamp, we will expect you to have sealed it with Notarius because it's our stamp and you're using it, therefore you need to follow our procedures. If you're using your Alberta stamp in BC for some reason, you would still have to follow our process because it's our seal. If you're using your BC stamp in BC or in Alberta or across the country, you would follow their procedures. That's how that would work.
This is Tara. Quebec also has been using the stamp for some time.
Right, thank you. So yeah, Quebec as well. So basically, if you consider Quebec, Manitoba, Alberta, BC, and Ontario, you're going to see this as a standard of practice basically everywhere but in the north, in the Maritimes, and in Saskatchewan. So it's becoming we're very near a national standard. Assuming we're able to have the CSLA Congress proceed here in a few weeks, we'll be talking with all the national staff, and we'll be working towards how we support the smaller jurisdictions to get on board as well, to try to make it a single process coast to coast to coast. So with that, it's 3 minutes to. Is there any final, I'll take one last question, and then I want to get you off the call as promised at 11 o'clock. Any final questions? I think that's it then. So I want to thank everyone for coming out. Oh, Jeffrey Katz just asked a question. Is the cost of the system tax deductible expense? I would assume so. I am not a tax lawyer and I am not giving you tax advice, but I can tell you that I own a business and I would absolutely write this off as an operational expense. And depending on your accountant and the rules around, if you're in a larger firm and you're paying this out of your own pocket, if you own the company, it's a business expense, I would think you should be able to write it off under your business taxes. If you're an individual practitioner, it probably will depend whether your firm is paying the fee or not, whether you can write it off. No different than your dues. It's a related business expense, but you check with your accountants, but I would assume yes. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you for coming out and trying out our first webinar. For those of you that didn't see, next week's webinar is changed. It's now going to be talking about the Historical Preservation Act in Alberta. If you're doing work in Alberta, you need to get on that call to learn all about it. Have a great day, and send me any questions. If you want to share this, it will be live as soon as I get it out of the cloud. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.